Okay. Get that lined up. Right, Christian, I'm going to try to record this video using my first and second finger as you prefer to do when you're playing down here. I'm used to doing like that, so I'm hoping I don't make a bunch of mistakes here. So we would start the song with a couple of bars of the guitar strumming. Then and so forth. I'm going to try making that work using my looper, but I've only got 2 bars on the looper, so I'm going to try strumming first and then hitting the looper and going from there with the bass part. Here goes. Whoa. Did I get that off? Alright, let's slow this down here. Try to. God rest ye merry Jude, you dismay, remember. I don't know if you could hear all of that extra singing that was going on there. You want to say hi to Christian Hardy? See me out? Hey, what do you think? Hey, Keith. Huh? Yeah. Yeah? Well, music's awesome, isn't it? Yeah. I don't know if it's picking up on the tape, but Hardy's been singing. Okay. You see here. Making sure I'm getting this right. Do a little lesson on the minor scale here. So with your 4 strings a minor, open E minor, E natural minor scale would be. That's as far as you could go without moving your position. So that's a scale you should know and practice until you know it real well. Yeah. Pause. Okay. Now here's a important thing to know about that exact same scale, which is, okay, so we were just playing it in E minor. So you could do patterns in the key of E minor. You could pick out stuff if we're playing something a simple song in E minor. You could use that natural minor scale to pick out some bass parts. And you'd have to kind of listen to make sure that the notes you were using fit with the song. Not every song tolerates the amount of dissonance that a jazz rendition might tolerate, like that one we were just doing. But here's the very significant thing about that same scale. If you're playing in G, the extremely common key of G, which we play songs in so often, that same scale now becomes the G major scale. So we're playing G, bum 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 bum. So I'm playing that exact same scale. Has a totally different sound. That's because G is the relative major of E minor. Actually, the more common way of putting that is that E minor is the relative minor of G major. So every key, every major key has a relative minor key, which means basically that if you play the exact same scale as the major scale, but you take that down 4 notes, including the original notes. So I'm starting up here in G, and I move it down 1, 2, 3 steps. So 1, including the G, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm in the relative minor. If I am playing in C, the relative minor for C major is A minor. 1, C, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm in the relative minor for C. So if I'm playing a C major scale, but I'm playing an A minor, that same scale sounds like a minor scale. Isn't that awesome? It's very cool. So for every major scale that you learn, you're actually learning both a major scale and a minor scale. So back to that open scale down here at the bottom of the fretboard. You learn that scale, and you now know both a major and a minor scale in the open position at the bottom of the guitar fretboard. And that's worth taking the time to learn, to practice, to woodshed over and over again until you know that scale. Because a lot of songs get played in E minor or G major. So still in the open position, which is called first position. So we've just learned the E minor scale, which has a relative major scale of G major. We're going to learn the E minor arpeggio. Nope. Sorry. That's a very important thing also to know. For each scale, if you can learn the arpeggios, that gives you a lot you can create stuff with. So you can just kind of hear that, can't you? Here's the bass. Then so you're playing in the key of G, that arpeggio would go like this. Wait. You can't see me plucking, but I'm plucking the open versions of your top two strings. Then third string, fourth string. Okay. Now, I'm going to try now to take this a bit farther by showing you the movable versions of those scales. So anyway, so you learned a minor scale and a major scale in the first position, in the open position. That was E minor. And then the major scale. But what if you want to play in other keys and you don't have to mess around learning all of your scales in the open position, which of course you can do. You could learn versions of the scales starting down here at the bottom of the fretboard, but for simplicity's sake, and I know I've taught you previously some movable scale stuff, like when we did the Joy to the World practice video. I'm going to repeat some of that stuff here, because this is immensely useful stuff for you to know. And you've already learned how to play G in the open position, right? But this is going to be the version you can move all the way up and down from F sharp on up. This is a G major scale. And then you take it on up on your bass. Whoops. Bum, 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 bum. So those first 8 notes are the 1 octave scale. Bum, 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 bum. So here's your octave, which you're probably already familiar with. Play G there, then you play G again on the 3rd string from the bottom. There. 2 frets up. And if you can play that, you can play it up here in B flat. Here's B flat major scale. anywhere else. You were playing in D, and you want to play some notes in the D major scale. Alright, so back down to G, we're going to play in G minor now. And then this is where this one gets a little bit more complicated, because on your 4th string you have to move it up, or move it down a fret. So without going up past just the scale, I mean the 1 octave, it's just like this. There's your octave. And same thing all the way up and down. Here we are in C. C minor, we're playing C minor. Alright? Now let's see about doing the arpeggio. Okay, so in G, your major arpeggio would be like that. I know you already learned it in the open position. Here's in the movable version. So you're playing this note and then the note right above it. So it's a stretch over 4 frets. Yes, and you could, I guess, skip over here if you wanted to move your hand around. You could play it with your 3rd finger to use the strength in your 3rd finger if you preferred that. So it's the minor arpeggio. So the 4 frets up, and then you roll over next fret. If you wanted to take it up all the way to your 4th string, that's what you'd do. And of course you can do that all the way up and down. So there's your arpeggios. I'm going to teach you one more thing, which is the pentatonic scale. The pentatonic scale is probably the most used scale in music played on guitars, bass guitars. It's a 5-note scale. That's why it's called pentatonic. And it leaves out crucial notes, which enables you to adapt it easily to either a minor context or a major context. So in the open position, so playing E minor or G major, the pentatonic scale goes like this. So here's the pentatonic minor scale in E. Open. Then 2nd string open. 3rd string open. 4th string open. Nope. See? So it's the 2nd fret on all of those. open, second, open, second, open, second. There's your 4 strings in the bass. So you're playing. I'm just coming up with ideas of what a bass player can do. You just fool around with that once you've learned it. So then you're playing in G major, you know, doing some country. So that's the relative major version of it. Now I'm going to show you the same thing in the movable version. This is where it gets really fun, is when you've learned your movable versions, because you can do them all over the place. Here's the pentatonic scale, and it is really so easy. Once you've learned it, it's so easy, and there's so much you can do with it. So where I'm doing the pentatonic minor scale in G. Okay. So once again, you can play that everywhere. I'm in C minor now. And in the blues, and then this is a useful thing to know, a lot of times, even if you're playing the blues in a major, you know, in a major key, that's, a lot of the soloing will take place in the pentatonic minor, or the blue minor, which is another scale, which is related to the pentatonic. But so you're playing as a major feel, but the soloist, and that'd be include the bass if he's playing a solo, would just go ahead and solo in the minor scale. See, I never left the key of C. That's where you learn the pentatonic scale, and you can, and if you're playing a 3-chord blues progression like that, you can solo very simply, or you can play melodies very simply just using the one key, the original key. I mean, you can get more complicated and make it more cool by changing the keys that you're playing in, but you don't necessarily have to. So anyway, here's the other thing you have to know about the movable pentatonic scale. Say I'm playing in A minor, and the scale, the octave is just, right? Now I want to play the pentatonic major scale in A major. I'm going to start. I'm just going to drop this down, and I'm going to have my A note be the second note of the same pattern. So it's basically like just dropping that pattern down below the bass note instead of above it. So now I'm playing that same pattern, but now my pinky, my second note, is the reference point. That's what I'm thinking of. So my reference in the major version is like this. So the second note of the pattern is actually the primary note of the major scale. So now I'm playing in major, and now that same pattern has a major feel. Hope this is clear. But same thing. So I'm in C minor. Now I want to play it in C major. I just drop down with the same pattern, but now my pinky is on the C. So this isn't my starting note. This is my starting note. This is just an extra note down below it. I'm in the C major. I forgot to mention that all of these scales that you've been learning, and we dealt with this, I believe, a few years ago when you learned Joy to the World, and I did some teaching about the major scale when you were learning that stuff. But the same thing applies here, which is that everything you just learned about scales on the E string, the movable scales, also applies on the A string. It's just a shorter scale going up and down from the starting point. But you can play an entire octave up and down without going below it. And you could go down below it and add notes to it also. But anyway, so if you're playing an A major scale, you can use the exact same pattern up on the A string to play a D major scale. So here's the D note. And you can do the same thing. You can play a D minor scale here. Okay, and you can play a D, and you can drop that down, and now it's a D major scale. Or no, I'm sorry. Let's do the D minor pentatonic first. Okay, and if you want to add notes below that, but there's your starting note. And you can do the D major pentatonic the same way. Okay? That's useful information. And that's one reason why you don't actually have to play the F scales down here in that more awkward bottom position, because you could play F up here. Of course, all your notes are going to be higher, but let's see, so that's D, D sharp, E, F. So you want to play your F major scale, you could play it up here. Or F minor. Or F minor pentatonic. Or F major pentatonic. Alright,